what you'll see, I think, is that there's a lot of connection between he and I. There isn't a lot of perfection. And when I realized that with Jesus, it isn't about perfection, right? He is perfection. He has plenty. He does not need my perfection. It's about connection. So when I can live from that connection with Jesus, first of all, he is not going to lead me into death. So let's talk about death versus life. Because again, there are all these meanings to these words, and if we don't define them, we might lose the meaning. So, peace, joy, these are all what I call concept words, meaning your definition of peace might be different from your definition of peace. And your definition of these words is likely based on your experience of them. It's hard to know what peace is if you've never had it. So let's talk about life. We have life with a small L, which is what I call the mundane, kind of everyday, changing diapers, scrubbing toilets. And then we have life with a capital L, which is Jesus. That's one of his names. He is the life, the way, the truth, and the life. Then we have death. So we have death with a small d, and we have death with a capital D. So to me, death with a capital D is hell. That's what happens when I do not choose life. Like, you're on the Titanic, the lifeboat is saying, come aboard, and you're like, no, I'm good. That's what happens if we choose death. I think, well, when I think about death, I see Jesus like hanging on to people who are choosing, don't do it, come this way. God doesn't send anybody to hell, right? That's just where we're heading if we don't choose life. All right, I want to tell you a story about a friend. This is a word. This is not a concept word. This is a really concrete word. It's swimming pool. So swimming pool doesn't have a lot of meanings, right? It's what the Beverly Hillbillies called a concrete pond or a cement pond or something like that. So it's a place where people swim. For me, a swimming pool has happy thoughts, happy memories, when I say swimming pool, let's go to the swimming pool. I have good thoughts, good feelings. I have a friend, she and I homeschooled our girls, and at the end of first grade, I said, because we had survived, and I felt like that was a really big deal, we need to celebrate. Let's go down to the little local pool and get pizza and invite all their friends and have a party, a pool party. And my friend turned gray and turned around and walked out of my house. And like, no, nothing. And I was tempted to be offended, but I said, all right, Lord, what was that? And he said, she has pain. So I just prayed for her. I didn't really understand what was happening. And then a couple days later, I saw her again, and she came up to me, and she could tell by my body was soft, that it was safe to talk to me. So she came over and she said, Katie, I'm so sorry. I have another daughter who you haven't met because she lives in heaven. And when she was 2, I went over to a friend's house. She just bought this house to, see her new house and have tea. And they were sitting there chatting, and 30 seconds went by and she realized she couldn't find her daughter. And the friend jumped up and ran to the pool, but she was already at the bottom of the pool and she died. So for my friend, the word pool is not happy, and that is a concrete word. So we have all of these words like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. These are huge concept words. We have these words like life, death, sin. All of these are huge words with many, 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 many meanings. And so it's really important for us to hone in on what God means with these words. All right, back to Scooter's story. So, yeah, I heard that. So I rescued Scooter from Joe. I need to understand his primary need, which is safety, and I need to understand how to speak to him in a way that makes sense to him, because he doesn't speak English or German or any other human language. Jesus came and spoke man to us because we had forgotten the language of God. So he came to this planet in man's form to identify with us so that we would identify with him. So he synced up with us first and then invites us to sync up with him. So I'm going to do the same thing with Scooter in just a little bit, but first he needs to be convinced that I am the source of safety. As a human, my primary need is love. And you can't have love without safety, and you can't have safety without love. So my need for love is a little bit more complicated than Scooter's. His literally is, are you going to eat me or not? The moment Scooter feels separate from the source of safety, he's anxious. It doesn't take him 5 minutes. It doesn't even take him 3 minutes. It literally takes him a moment. The moment he believes that he is separated from me, he is anxious. So I want to look at this word life, because I don't think that horses experience abundant life the same way we do. But when a horse feels safe in each moment, he is then free to be the horse that he was created to be. When he is not convinced that he is safe, he's afraid. He cannot learn. All he's really able to do is react. There are 4 layers of interaction that I'm looking for with my horse. So he comes into this relationship and he rejects me. So it took me 6 months to be able to get my hands on Scooter after I bought him and brought him to my place and let him go. And the guy said, don't ever take the halter off, you'll never catch him. And I was like, yeah, thanks for the advice. But I let him go in a big field and I just let him gain some weight. He was very thin, and be a horse again. And I just took my time. It took me 6 months to be able to have him approach me in the field without fear. I wanted him to start to be able to participate, not have me do stuff to him, but that we would start doing stuff together. People often ask me when they see me do things with Scooter, do you train horses? Will you train my horse? No, I won't. I would love to help you understand how to teach your horse, but my definition of training is something I do to something else for my benefit. Teaching is something I do with someone for his benefit. And the primary benefit that I want Scooter to gain from our time together is that he is safe. And then from that comes this incredible connection, this beautiful relationship that people think, is some kind of a button that I push. And it isn't. It is literally a moment by moment, him choosing to say yes. So his job is to say yes. My job is to be clear. Those are the 2 sides of the responsibilities. As his mom, his horse mom, I want to make sure that he can stay with my energy. And I don't mean weird energy, I just mean, am I going somewhere or am I not? I want him to be able to connect to my stop. I want him to be able to connect to my rest. So right now he's getting starey again. He's like, I just want to connect with him, help him. So I'm going to put pressure on him. Do you guys ever feel like God puts pressure on you and it feels unfair? You're like, just stop. And he might be saying, you know what, girl, you need it. And I'm not saying that God makes bad things happen. That's not what I'm saying. But it is possible that the pressure is going to bring me to a place where I pay more attention to him. And it's not because God needs attention. It's because he is the source of life. I need him, not the other way around. So he might be putting pressure on me to help me to clarify. Pressure and pain distills stuff down to the very, when you have $1.47, what you can buy at the store becomes very clear. I can buy a 99-cent piece of bread and that's it. So pain, pressure, brings life down to the very simple. All right, let's start doing some cool things with horses and connecting, at least for me, this is how God connects the dots for me between what it means to belong to him and what it means to belong to the other guy. I think about the mountains fall into the sea, and I'm okay. All right, I'm gonna walk him around a bit, and I'm also gonna test and see how much room I have on my mic. I'm gonna send him, so I bring up my energy, I point at his beautiful little nostril, and I ask him to go. So I'm gonna send him, I'm gonna lift my stick, and then I just want him to stay with me. It's his job to keep his feet with mine. I'm gonna ask him to trot. I'm just gonna bring up my energy. And I'm gonna ask him to trot till I ask him to do something else. So this is the circle game. The purpose of this game is to help my horse understand who is responsible for speed and direction once I've sent him. It's his responsibility to maintain speed and direction until I ask him to do something else. That's not really a circle, dude. That's kind of an egg. Think about the math involved as he's figuring out where I am. Wow. All right, I'm going to ask him to stop. Good job. Once we start having understanding about speed and direction, I can start asking him to connect at longer distances. And see him asking, what do you want? All four, please. Right there, perfect. Oh. Good job. So what I'm doing is I'm using my body. So I'm going to ask him one more time to get up. You can do it, my friend. So I'm using my body with focus, and then I'm using the stick to provide some rhythm. And then when he's where I want him, I'm just letting it all out. And then I will correct him as often as I need to, because I'd like him to stay there. It is not important to my horse to be able to keep his feet still. Like, that is not something he thinks about. He doesn't get up and go, ooh, I need to practice keeping my feet still. But the way horses establish dominance over the other, or leadership is my preferred word, because I'm really not interested in dominating him. I am interested in being his trusted leader. But the way they establish leadership over the other is by who can move or stop the other one's feet. And this is really important to know if you have horses, because they're likely to be moving your feet. But if you are not aware of that, you might not even know that you should stop moving your feet. So one of the first things that I do when I start working with somebody is I help them understand how important it is for them to be aware of their body. This is another way that horses are so helpful in equine-assisted discipleship, because people who come are often struggling. In fact, I don't know anybody who's been on the planet for longer than 20 minutes who hasn't had some kind of trauma or wounding, I like to call it, rather than trauma, because trauma makes it sound like you were in a car explosion or something. But you can have a wound from just anything. I have a friend who has a very deep wound from childhood, and nobody said anything to her. Her parents were fighting. They didn't even know she was awake. And so she overheard some stuff, and she saw some stuff that has, 30 years later, continued to plague her in terms of security. and where security is? And is she responsible for stuff that she's not responsible for? So trauma occurs constantly. The question becomes, as an equine-assisted discipler, is how do I respond to that person? Because when people come to us for help, often they have a horrific story or maybe a mundane story, and they're going to be depending upon us to be aware of our body language so that we are soft and open, our eyes are soft, so that they feel safe. Because often, if you've experienced trauma and that is continuing to influence you, you feel like a prey animal. If you've had any kind of sexual trauma, you've been stalked. You have been pursued in a not a good way. So we want to treat our client, or I call them my students, like I would treat Scooter. I want her or him to know that they're safe. The other thing about playing with horses is it's really crucial to stay connected to him no matter what. So he wants to be over there because there's a horse coming in. He doesn't want to be up on the platform. So I'm just going to stay focused on what I want, not because I need him to stand on the platform, but because for him, he needs to know that I am committed and sufficient to cause him, don't hurt yourself, so did you guys feel the energy change in him? So he's anxious. Why is he anxious? So I want him to ask me, are you anxious? No, I'm not anxious. Good job. So when I'm with a client or a student and I'm with my horse, it's so important that I never lose sight of my horse. Now that's really hard because I'm a human, so I'm a direct line thinker. Which means, you are so cute. That was a cute spin. Which means that I can only think about one thing at a time. Jesus is not a direct line thinker. He is able to be with everybody all the time. So I'm going to put more pressure on him. And I'm not mad, and I'm not disappointed, and I'm not frustrated. I am really curious, like what's going on that he is so focused on something else? Well, we're in a new place. We came here yesterday for the first time. Okay, so he just went with his nose, and now he's coming over looking for comfort. And it's not that I don't want to give him comfort, but I know he is not in danger. So it's my job to be clear. All right, I'm going to just play a little friendly game. Hi, that was so good. I know that was hard. And I'm going to give him a cookie because he put some effort into that. Hi, would you like a cookie? Also, it's going to give me an idea of where he is in his head, because if he's really anxious, he can't eat a cookie. So if he can eat a cookie, I know he's pretty much okay. Now, he may climb down because he might want to be closer to me. So I'm just watching him out of the corner of my eye. And I may call him over before he climbs down because he's telling me he's uncomfortable. Every time, though, I ask my horse to do something he's not comfortable doing, and he lives, he gets more convinced, more confident in me. Come on over, bud. The other thing about him, he's 25. People are like, well, he's been with you for 22 years. Doesn't it make you mad that he doesn't know by now that you're not going to eat him or let him get eaten? You know what? I've been with Jesus for a long time. I'm 60. I was 12. What is that? I don't know. I was an English major. This is why. A long time. I still ask him in each moment, am I okay? Are we okay? I still have anxiety. It's not that belonging to Jesus means that I never have fear. Just like Scooter, the moment I experience fear, it's because I'm convinced in that moment that I'm separated from Jesus. All right, so this thing of life versus death. Horses are not moral. Horses do not make choices that are good and avoid things that are bad. In each moment, I represent life, meaning I'm sufficient for safety, or I'm not. And in this natural law of predator and prey, not only am I not the source of safety, I'm actually the source of fear. In this law of sin and death, God is not the source of safety or the source of love. He's a source of fear, right? When I'm in Adam and my spirit is dead, when I am possessed by the unholy spirit, I have no ability to love or even want God. So I reject him. The next layer that I'm looking for my horse is to tolerate me. The next layer that I look for in my horse is to accept me. And then the final layer is that he will receive me. The folks that I talk to often are somewhere between I tolerate God and I accept him, right? So sometimes they accept, sometimes they're just tolerating. And that, in that misunderstanding of what relationship is, of who God is, creates anxiety. Just like for Scooter, if his understanding of who I am is out of whack, his understanding of who he is out of whack, and his understanding of everything else on the planet is out of whack. And suddenly this anaconda from the Amazon over there is real and terrifying, and he has no protection from it. I am not sufficient any longer. If you think about death with a capital D as being hell, sort of eternal separation from God, and I think about on this planet, I can have moments where I experience separation from God. I'm not actually separate from him. I'm just believing that I am. But in that moment, I'm going to experience all of what I call the fallout of death, which is different. It's the opposite of the fruit or the natural expression of life.